Hey everyone, this is Ian with ImmigrationFinder. ImmigrationFinder is a company that builds procedures for immigration law firms. We will systematize intake, production, your sales, onboarding, how exactly we do things. So imagine if your firm ran like an efficient franchise. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to add $1 million into your firm in the next 12 to 18 months or so. What we've noticed is it takes about 18 months for a firm to really transition from one operating style to another. Not that it's like you flip a switch after a year and a half, but this is one way to look at it. So listen, without any further ado, I'm just going to add in our screen share, and here we go. All right, so this is how to add on $1 million to your immigration firm in the next 18 months or so. There's a few different things to this. You will need leads, a process for filtering those leads, and then sales. So that's one thing there. So to get started, before you start, you will need a few core components to this. You're going to need enough leads. You're going to need a willingness just to fail and iterate and restart. Once again, building out procedures is not like a legal case. I mean, like you can do something, screw up a little bit, then tweak. It's not like you get, you get pretty much an infinite set of second chances. I mean, to some extent. And the third thing is very important. You need to master your data. So you need to look at this like it's a science experiment. So science experiment, you measure things, you put things together, and then you review it and move forward. All right, so three-layer sales framework. So one thing within all those leads and marketing, there's always a few different things here. There's quantity, quality, and then viability. So one thing, you need to go from one to the other and have a process for it. And it doesn't mean you need to have a ton of different people to do this, but there needs to be quantity. One thing, you have to get a lot of leads. You have to get all your inquiries in. Even if it's not like a lot in a big scheme of things, you need to get enough that can filter down to the next step. So it goes from quantity, then it goes to quality, which is all the leads, down to the people that have some qualification that you have, and it can be all sorts of things. It can be whether or not they're willing to pay for a consult, they qualify for a case, they need to file within a certain amount of time. Then next you go to viability. These are the people that actually have a potential to sign up. And one thing, track your metrics between these numbers. You want the total number of leads, the ones that are evaluated, the ones that potentially qualify, which you can usually do in the next step, and then the ones that will actually have potential to pay. Most people spend a lot of time here and ignore a lot of people here, which means they get fewer sales later on in the process. So, and this doesn't mean you're only focusing on people that'll pay right away. All right, so next thing, you got to have a few different processes here. So this is the whole, that first step of the process, quantity and quality. Between these steps is where that happens. So lead capture and lead filtration. So essentially, you need to get a lot of leads, capture them, so make it really easy for people to contact you. Have your phone number on your site in a lot of good places. If you're posting online, have information in the bios to where people can find you easily submit their information. Then on your site, put the forms they need to fill, the chat boxes, whatever, front and center. And then from there, you have the sign-up process. So most firms just offer them the price, say, hey, that'll be $10,000 for the case, and then they just drop off a map. Have a follow-up process, show them you have a procedure. And a lot of what happens too is you can have this very awesome sales process. Then what happens afterwards is they go into this very kind of dab production process where there's not a lot of communication. So something you want to do, but that's a lot of way you want to plan in the onboarding process for new clients as part of your intake process, because that's where you're going to get quick referrals, is from keeping people happy. So that's one thing there. So one thing, you got to hire an intake team. I guess you don't have to do this. If you want to do it yourself, you can. One thing, we regularly staff people from Latin America, generally for about $1,000 to $1,400 a month or so, and then that's plenty of money there, where a lot of people would be happy to work. So a few things, just places to find them. Upwork is an online gig staffing site, you can find people there. LinkedIn is our main source for finding people. So go on LinkedIn, there's a little jobs icon on there, press that, then post job. If you need any help with that, feel free to reach out to us. We have another video on our channel about it. Or what you can do is just go on Google. LinkedIn's a huge multi-billion-dollar platform. They have a lot of articles on it. You can't hire an agency. We regularly staff sales agents. There are companies you can pay on a monthly retainer to where you don't have to deal with any of the payroll items, such as onlinejobs.ph. Now, generally, like we search in Latin America, but there are a lot of other good places, pretty much any country, and you can find good candidates from. And then break in mind, give people a little bit of a career path to work on. At first, generally, people are going to come on as an intake agent. Look for ways to set up the sales process to not need a high learning curve, meaning that, hey, you're just going to call out leads, find people that want to pay for a consult that have these three criteria. They need to file in the next 6 months, or they're already married and want to do their marriage green card case, they have a job offer, they were a victim of a qualifying crime, depending on the case type. Then from there you can pass them through. But essentially you want to create a process where there's not a high learning curve for people to start working, which is true with every part of the firm. But in this example, we're talking about intake. So you'd want to say, hey, call all the leads, call all of them 5 times, at least in the first week or 2, and then screen them, and then all the ones that want to buy consults, sell that to them or pass them to a more experienced team member, and go on from there. So one thing, your tech stack. This is an important part of working together. So there's a lot of different tools out there that you can use. The main components, though, is just stay organized. So that's the biggest thing here, is just stay organized, stay on top of things, and make it easy for people to go to the next step of the process, both inside the company as far as processing the data and for the prospects themselves. So it's really difficult when someone has to call the firm, get a voicemail, call back, hope they reach somebody, then that person has to take a payment, schedule them on the phone, and then put them on the calendar a certain way, to where when someone could just have a link to send them to where they can schedule. So make it really easy to work with you. And then generally people are more patient with their lawyers. But imagine if you hired a company like mine and there was all this friction into just even getting what you wanted from them, you probably wouldn't hire them. So, think like that. Overall, we're a big fan of having a CRM. We're a proprietor of IF CRM, which is a good follow-up CRM that you can have a lot of things in. And so I like a lot of different features mixed into one. Next thing, scheduling. Make it really easy for people to book with you or to somehow get in contact with you. If you want to put some friction in place in the sense where, hey, we want to make sure that they're qualified for this or that, that's different than making it difficult to communicate with you through the avenues that you've provided. Meaning that, have an AI to answer the phone instead of voicemail, have an answering service, have enough receptionists for things. If a lead comes in, call them right away so that way they can actually get what they want. And next thing is, when you're actually working with the agents, especially if you're doing remote people, which is usually what we build out, have an online phone system. You can also track the amount of calls they're making and different metrics in here, so that's an important part. And one thing, have different ways to communicate with people, especially with different time zones, depending on if you're working with people in different time zones in the US, or maybe if they just work during the day. There are people that might not be able to really communicate or do consults, specifically if their consult might be around what they're at work doing. They wouldn't want to see their boss do it. All right, so that's something. Then also have e-signs set up. Make it real easy for people to sign up with you. A lot of lawyers will just quote the case, let the person leave, and there's no way for them to actually pay or sign up or do it on their own without them assertively coming back. Big thing, have analytics. Track how many calls get made, how many consults get done, agreements sent, all that. Have a lot of data. If you want a data reporting template, feel free to email Ian@ImmigrationFinder.com. We have a great template for this, many of which we implement daily for firms. So one thing, this leads into the next thing, master your data. So develop a few key simple things. Generally with an intake team, we'll just have a form for them to fill out at the end of the day with a lot of this information. But you want to know how many leads come in, how many forms are submitted, so case evaluations. So essentially there's new leads, there would be a questionnaire the person submits. You can know how many leads actually got screened. Let's say you got 100 leads, 60 were screened, and then how many responded, which is kind of somewhat in the same group. But this is essentially like the intake numbers as far as what would get screened by an intake agent. And then this down here is what would get screened by a sales agent or attorney. So this is intake and sales. But that's that whole filtration process. So you're looking for quantity, this is the quality part, and then viability, going through it for sure. All right, so overall, in this intake process, but you want to know easily, find what numbers you can easily control to help you make a certain amount of money. Like if I got 20 cases this month, how many total leads did we get? How many times did we reach out to them? And how many times did we ask for consults to get whatever the 50 consults that signed up the 20 cases? So on and so forth. There are a lot of templates for this. If you go plug this meeting recording into AI, it can probably just make something for you. And so this is one thing we teach is the attorney-like consult model. We just want the attorney to be there for information purposes. Over time, of course, we obviously know we can't go into the firm and then just change everything that's currently making money. So one thing, intake agent can initiate the call. The attorney conferences in. They just answer a few quick questions and then do that. Then the actual call itself is handled by this intake person. Then we'll get that in there. After that, the attorney drops off, and then the sales agent takes over the sale. So that's that. A few things too, if you really want to add this, money onto your firm, don't just work with people that are ready to get going right away. You can generally re-engage about 3 to 5% of your database at any time when you're working with things. So something really important to do there. But you got to think most firms, if they've been in business for a while, have 10,000 plus people in the database. If you can introduce 300 of those people back into the sales process every month, it's going to equal cases. Even if you do this and you can get 10 extra cases quarterly, 40 extra cases per year. So it's a lot of that. So develop a quick sequence. You can automate this. If you want help with that, feel free to click the link in the description of this video or our bio, wherever you're watching this, and you'll be able to learn a bit more from there. All right, so the first 30-day action plan. So week one, post an intake agent job on Upwork and LinkedIn. Set up a CRM. Feel free to reach out to us if you need help with that. We do this a lot. Week two, interview, hire the intake agent, and give them a little toolkit. Make it easy for them to send agreements and sign up with people. Don't overly personalize things, so it's fine. And have a way for them to schedule appointments. So one thing is, if you're doing paid appointments, you can easily set up a way to capture payment. So that's that. So week three, actually set up this. So this is implementation, essentially, setting up everything, create an end-of-day stats form. Week four, go live, make it happen for them. So that's a big thing there. All right, so build the daily data habit. So you want to see your numbers every single day. AI will actually tell you a lot about this, but you want to pay attention to what numbers you can easily control to equal end result. Like, you can't necessarily force someone to give you money, but if you look at the data and realize, okay, the more outbound calls we make to our prospects, the more people sign up every single month. We can easily, as a company, make more outbound calls to prospects. That's something we can control. I can, maybe stop doing other things and then assign it out to an intake agent to do. I can hire another person to make more calls and schedule them, keep them in touch. But this is exactly what you want. You want to figure out what these numbers are so you can equal those. So if you're ready to build $1 million intake machine in your firm, actually make this happen for you. We've done this for over 100 different firms. It's a big thing for sure. I really am passionate about this. Feel free to visit ImmigrationFinder.net.